just about to wrap up. Would anybody have another comment, a question? I have a question.
Sorry, just a quick thing. Even if you haven't read the book, go see the museum in Istanbul. It's fascinating.
No, now I have to read the book and go see the museum. Thank you very much, Mimi.
In that order.
Yeah.
Okay. Can I have? I'd like to ask you a question there, if I may. Your father is both subject and character in your book. And how did he respond to the book? And did your relationship with him change as a result of you writing it?
Oh, most definitely. So, como eu mencionei antes, eu
Well, as
começo a
I
escrever o
mentioned,
livro num
I
momento muito
began writing
delicado
this book in
da
a
vida e
very
da saúde do meu
delicate
pai,
moment of my
e
father's
isso
life and of his
toma o
health.
livro
And
de
that
assalto,
situation, took
influencia
over the
muito
book.
no
It
processo de
had a
escrita
huge
do
influence in the
livro. Meu
writing
pai
process
embarca no
of this book.
processo, ele
And
topa
my
das
father, he
entrevistas para
jumped
mim,
into
mesmo num
this
momento
process.
muito
He
frágil.
agreed to give me
E ele
interviews, although
sabia que eu estava escrevendo o livro,
he was
evidentemente,
sick.
né?
He knew I
Era
was
tudo
writing
muito
the book.
detalhado para ele. Ele me
And
dá
I
as
was telling
entrevistas, ele
him
sabe
everything in
que eu estou
detail. He
trabalhando
was
no
giving
livro.
interviews to me. He was aware of the book I was
Mas os
writing.
livros, o universo dos livros era muito
But the
estranho ao meu
book
pai, né?
universe,
Era uma terra
very
estrangeira
distant from
ao meu
him,
pai.
like a
Então, ele
foreign
tinha de fato
country. Books were
uma
like a
ideia
foreign country to
muito
him.
precisa do que era
He didn't
escrever
have
um
a
livro,
precise
publicar
idea
um livro.
to write a
Sei lá,
book,
como
to
é que se faz
publish a
para escrever um
book.
livro, publicar um livro?
How
Quem
do you
paga
write a
por
book?
isso?
Who
As
pays for
pessoas
that?
compram livro?
Do
Como
people
você
buy books?
recebe? Como
How do you get
circula? Tudo isso
money if you write
era
a book? How
absolutamente
do
abstrato.
books circulate?
Meu
That was
pai que
really
foi devagar,
abstract for
assim,
him.
quando me perguntava, eu
And
explicava.
he was asking me these questions and I
Ele ficou
answered.
sabendo, né, no final de
And
2022,
in
que o
late
livro, antes de sair no
2022,
Brasil, o livro tinha sido comprado para tradução em
he
10
knew
idiomas.
that the
Ele
book
ficou
had
muito
already been
fascinado
bought
com
to
tudo
be
isso, né?
translated
Ele
into
sabia que
10
a
different
história dele ia
languages, even
circular.
before it was published in Brazil.
E quando o
And he
livro
was
sai no
fascinated.
Brasil,
His
em
story was
março de
going to circulate.
2023,
The
minha
book
mãe
was
começa
published
a
in
ler o livro.
Brazil
A minha
in
mãe
March
estudou tanto
23.
quanto meu pai,
My
mas por
mother
conta,
started
sobretudo,
reading
da
the
Igreja
book.
Católica, dela ter
Because of
atuado em várias
Catholic Church,
comunidades da Igreja
she was
Católica,
present in
ela teve
many Catholic
letramento maior
communities.
que o
My
meu
mother
pai.
was
E ela
more
teve, ela
literate
teve o
than my
caderno,
father,
ela
although they
lia
went to school the same period of years.
revistas,
She
entre aspas,
read
femininas dos anos
women's
70, né?
magazines, women's, and I mean
Revistas
quote unquote,
românticas
women
dos
magazines,
anos
romantic
70. Ela
magazines
tem
from the 70s.
uma proximidade um pouco
My
maior que meu
mother
pai tinha
was a
com a
little bit
leitura e a
closer
escrita. Então ela
to
leu o livro.
reading and
E ela
writing.
leu
So my
do
mother
jeito dela,
read the
né? Eu
book
lembro que ela me ligava e
in
falava:
her own
Ah,
way.
hoje eu li
She
mais um
would call
capítulo, mas
me
eu pulei
and
uma
she
parte lá
said,
que você falava de
I
um
read a
monte de
chapter,
gente,
but
dos
I
escritores
skipped
lá.
a
Aí eu
part
voltei para
when
as
you were mentioning
histórias.
some
Ela foi
writers,
lendo
and then I
do
moved
jeito dela, que eu
on
acho
to another
fenomenal.
part.
É
She
uma
read
prova
in her own
de
way,
que o leitor,
which is
no final das
phenomenal.
contas,
The
ele é um co-criador da obra, né? Minha
reader is
mãe
a
sempre me deu a
co-creator
prova
of works,
definitiva
and
disso.
my mother is proof of
E aí eu
that.
fui
Readers are
percebendo que, bom,
co-creators.
aquilo que era já óbvio, mas eu fui aceitando,
Um,
que meu pai não leria o livro, ele não pegaria o
Obvious
livro e
that I
leria do começo,
thought
meio e
my
fim, né? Isso
father's
era
not
muito,
going to
muito
read this book
difícil para
from
ele.
beginning to end because this was very difficult for him.
Já seria se ele tivesse com a
It
saúde
would be
melhor,
difficult
e mais
enough if
difícil
he were in
ainda com a
good
saúde
health,
mais frágil.
but more so now that he
E
was
aí eu
sick.
decidi
So
ler o
I
livro para
decided
ele.
to read the book out loud to
É
him.
lá por junho e julho,
And
entre
by
junho e julho, de
June,
2
July,
viagens para Jaú, eu li
I went
todo o
to
livro,
Jaú
começo, meio e
and I
fim, para o
read
meu
the book
pai na
from beginning
sala, em
to
voz
end to my
alta,
father
minha
in the
mãe
living
junto.
room,
Então era uma leitura que,
out
na verdade,
loud.
era um
My mother
bate-papo,
was
em que
together.
eles
So it was
corrigiam
not
partes do
reading, it was
livro,
like chatting because they were
perguntavam de
correcting me.
detalhes,
They were
conversavam,
reminding
perguntavam
me
por que eu
of
tinha feito de um
different
jeito ou de
details. They
outro.
asked me,
Eu
why did you write
explicava
it
às
like
vezes para eles por
that?
que que eu mudei o nome do
And I would
personagem, por
explain
que
to
que eu
them,
mudei
why did I
a
change
ordem
the
de
name of
algumas
that
coisas,
character?
né?
Why did I,
A gente foi discutindo,
switch
foi uma
things around
conversa.
here? It
E
was a
eu, nesse
conversation.
momento, quando eu decidi fazer isso,
And when
fiz a
I
leitura para o meu pai, eu
decided to
entendi
read the book
que
to my
como
father,
projeto artístico, essa leitura
that as an
era uma parte
artistic
fundamental.
project, the reading out
Ela não foi
loud
só
was a
algo, um
key element.
agregado, algo
It was
acessoral,
not just
né? Eu
an
começo
additional
ouvindo as
point.
histórias para o meu pai, eu produzo o livro.
I
Eu
heard
tinha que
my father's
terminar
stories,
contando de
I
volta
wrote a
para ele.
book, and this had
Isso
to
passou a
end
ser,
with me telling
na
these
minha
stories back
história,
to him.
digamos, pessoal, minha história
In
de
my personal
escritor,
story, in my story
história
as a
de vida, no
writer,
meu jeito de
and
ver
my
o mundo
life
também,
story, the way
essas
that I
leituras
see the
foram
world,
em voz alta, foram
reading
muito
aloud
importantes e muito emocionantes,
was really
como vocês
moving and
podem
really
imaginar.
important to me,
Eu
as you can
gravei essa
imagine.
leitura
I
também,
recorded this reading.
esse momento de leitura para
I
ele.
recorded this moment when I read the book for him, not all of it, but most of it. And part of that material was in a podcast. I'm going to put in the chat box. It's called Rádio Novelo Apresenta. And the name of the episode is Voltar o Relógio. It means turning back the clock in Portuguese. Voltar o Relógio. It's the last episode of this program by 23. My father had just passed away, so I read the book to him in July 23, and in November he passed away. And we had these recordings, and in December the podcast was aired. And I think it's sort of a goodbye, you know, because it's the first time that readers listen to my father's voice. His voice is there, you know, in our conversations. In this podcast, he tells me his stories from the beginning. So that's the beginning of the interviews. And in the podcast, there's also me reading the book back to him, and we're talking about it in the podcast. So if you're interested, I think it's a beautiful podcast. Natalia Silva produced it with, you know, she's very sensitive. It's available on Spotify or in different platforms. That's it. Thank you, Zé.
Nós vamos encerrar a sessão e muito obrigada.
So that's how we wrap up this
Zé,
session. Thank Zé, thank you, Rahul. I'd like to thank
all of you, our interpreters, everybody. Thank you. It's been brilliant talking to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I add just something? Just a final thought.
Sure.
Como pensamento, primeiro eu queria agradecer a todos vocês,
First
mas eu
of all,
queria
I wanted to
agradecer
thank
sobretudo, em
everyone, but I
especial,
wanted to
em
thank
público, mais uma vez, o
especially
Rahul
once
pela
again
tradução
Rahul
belíssima
for
do
his
meu livro.
brilliant
Eu tenho que
translation
dizer para
of my
vocês que
book.
leem em inglês
I have
que
to tell you, those who
é a única
read it
tradução
in
em que eu
English,
trabalhei de forma
it is the
pouco mais
only
intensa, em
translation
diálogo
I was part
com o
of
tradutor.
intensely. I
Eu
was
conversei
in
com todos os
constant
tradutores,
dialogue
todos
with the
tiveram dúvidas
translator. I talked to
pontuais,
all
mas com
translators.
o
They all
Rahul foi a
asked me
única
questions,
versão que eu li,
but with Rahul, it
Rahul, e nós
was the
entramos em
only
diálogo,
version that I
conversamos,
read, and we
etc.
were in
Então é
constant
uma versão que eu
conversation.
tenho particular
So,
carinho e tudo isso tem a
you
ver
know,
com o
it's
imenso
dear to me.
talento e
The book in
trabalho
English is
árduo
very
do
dear to
Rahul
me, and it's the
nessa
result
tradução.
of
Não podia
Rahul's
ter contado
talent
com um
and
tradutor
hard
melhor.
work. I couldn't
Can I
have
just
had
add
a
that
better
I read in
translator.
Portuguese and English?